Your Honor, good people of the court, this defendant is being charged with the Royal Decree 880 and crimes against his country. Daniel was charged for this crime on the basis that he married an Ethiopian woman, had a family with her, and fought against his country in a resistance movement. Prosecution moves to charge the defendant the maximum penalty of death penalty. Ladies and gentlemen of the court, the man who sits before you is not innocent. We know the facts of the case, and they are that Daniel pledged his love, his life, and his honor to his country, to Italy. We know that he was sent out for a mission to protect his people. And we also know that Daniel turned his back on his country when he decided to break a law that was put in place for a reason. And not only that, but we also know that he willingly, of sound mind and body, chose to fight in the resistance against this country, betraying this country. Only you can decide what is right here, and what is right here is to make sure that Daniel is found guilty. Thank you.
The facts of the case. Well, people of the jury, that's what the prosecutor wants. That's what we'll give him. The main theme in this case is love. Now I'll tell you why. Because the defendant in question chose to love a woman from a different country. And because the defendant chose to join the resistance, because that love was turned tarnished by the Italian government. Who is at fault here? A man who fell in love? Or a government who's so bent out of shape over immigrants that they decided to charge my client with the highest degree of punishment, to kill my client because he fell in love?
Today we have before you a defendant charged with 2 accounts of first-degree murder. Kebedek Seom, the young woman you see before you, killed 2 Italian soldiers making their patrols around their area. The prosecution moves to charge the defendant with the maximum penalty, death penalty. Good people of the court, today I stand before you seeking justice for 2 honorable Italian soldiers doing their duty and serving their country. The defendant, you see, mercilessly took the lives of 2 men without thought. She stood before the 2 men and took her shot, hitting the first man and then the second. And she watched the life drain from their eyes. A true killer, if this court has ever seen one. Guilty is the only sentence I have left to give. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the prosecutor would like you to believe that this is an open and shut case, that this defendant is no more than guilty. As he said, she is no more than a true killer in the eyes of the court. That she watched the life drain from these Italian men's eyes. But can we know that for sure? Was the prosecutor there at the time of the crime? No. He can't. He can't say for sure that this is how the event happened. What we do know for sure is that this woman felt endangered for her life and the life of others, that she tried to protect them as best as she can. We can no longer call her a killer than any of us when we try to defend ourselves, can we? So to the prosecutor's reasoning that this woman is a cold-blooded killer, that she killed Italian men for absolutely no reason, I say false. How do we know that this is true just because the prosecutor has said this? Thank you.
Okay.
Before you today is a defendant the prosecution wishes to find guilty of espionage. Ababa Ilgirsa Salo secretly and skillfully joined the resistance. The prosecution moves to charge the defendant with a capital offense. Good people of the jury, we have heard the defender.
Ladies and gentlemen of the court, while the prosecutor makes a fair case, he's dismissing one key thing about this case. The fact that this man standing before you, this defendant, is not guilty of this crime. Now let me tell you why. Because he is the victim. Now, the prosecutor says that he is no friend of Italy, that he is no innocent. But let me tell you something. This man isn't innocent. He is the man who suffered through much trauma. A man whose family was slaughtered by the Italian government for no basis whatsoever. A man who was hospitalized. A man who suffered deeply with depression because of the events of that trauma. A man who's only left with an aunt to really take care of him. And a man who was brutalized, victimized during time of place, a time of work by an Italian fascist. Can we stand here and abide by the rules of fascism and accuse this man of this crime just because it threatened the Italian government? His strength after a trauma, can we really say that the defendant is guilty because of that strength? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the court. All right. For the defendant,
Yeah.
go on all day about action.
But to, no.